All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Head with Double D. Thank you for joining me. Oh, wrong thing.
Double D.
Almost got the fun around the hedge music going there. All right. Thank you for joining us again. We are still doing our divisional previews. We've already done a couple, and we are now doing the AFC South today. So we'll be doing the Texans, the Colts, the Jags, and the Titans, picking over-unders for their total wins, and picking a division winner at the end. I feel like we've mentioned it a couple times when we're doing some of the other divisions earlier. This is probably one of the weaker divisions, maybe the weakest. Hard to say for sure, but definitely one of the weaker ones. Andrew and I were talking about it earlier. It's crazy how many young quarterbacks they've got. If Will Levis plays this year, they'd have 3 quarterbacks from this draft playing, which seems crazy. And then obviously Trevor Lawrence is still pretty young for the Jags.
Yeah, I don't even think he's 25 years old yet.
So yeah, he's still very young, very good. He definitely came out as soon as he could because he was a top pick in college, even like after his freshman year. So, this is Andrew, by the way. Thank you for joining me, Andrew. Andrew is a big Titans
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you're here. Big Titans fan, so he's going to help us out with the Titans and the whole division in general. Tony, thank you again for joining me as always.
Of course.
All right, well, let's get started. So AFC South. As always, we'll talk about the schedule. So the AFC South, they will all play the entire AFC North, which will be tough, and then they will play the NFC South, which kind of makes some of those games easier. When we talked about the NFC South last time, that was kind of one of the things that made us pick over on some of the teams because they're like, well, they get to play the AFC South, so maybe that is a couple wins there. But it could go the other way. It could be the AFC South picks up a couple wins against a weak NFC South, so you never know. We will start with the Texans. The Texans finished last in the division with a 3-13-1 record. They were pretty bad, obviously, very bad. They had the second pick. And with that 4th place finish, you would think that would give them a much easier schedule because they get to play the other 4th place teams in the other divisions. But the other 4th place teams were the Broncos, and they play at the Jets, who I think we all think are going to be a lot better this year than last year. Obviously the Jets with picking up Aaron Rodgers, but the Broncos, I think we all think Russell Wilson's going to play better with Sean Payton there. So that's something we can kind of talk about as we go. But so that doesn't make the schedule very easy for them. They also play the Cardinals, which should be an easier game, but they're both going to be bad.
Yeah.
But you never know. The Cardinals. Go ahead, Andrew.
I think the Jets finished 7-9 last year, so I wouldn't even say they're a bad team. They're just in a really tough division. So I think, they got the work cut out for them for sure.
Yeah, the Jets. Yeah, I remember when we were doing that division, it seemed like the Jets were bad because everyone always talks about how bad the Jets are, blah, blah, blah. But then you're like, oh, wow, they won 7 games, and they had like one of the quarterbacks, now they've got Rodgers. So that seems like a pretty good turnaround for them.
Yeah.
The Texans total over under is 6.5 games. So, I don't think you're going to get much lower than 6.5 or maybe 5.5 for a lot of these teams. No one's going to be picking like 3.5, 4.5 in general, I'd imagine. But 6.5 is going to be one of the lowest ones. Like I said, they added CJ Stroud, so it's kind of going to be all about, is CJ Stroud good? If he plays really well, they're going to win games. If he struggles, they're going to lose games, most likely. They also added Will Anderson. I think they had the 2nd and the 3rd pick in that draft, which is really strange. But they added Will Anderson for an edge rusher from Alabama. They also added Dalton Schultz as a tight end in free agency, which I think will help. He's a pretty solid tight end. They added Robert Woods. He's like their number 1 receiver now, which, as Titans fans know, maybe not that great.
He's definitely not meant to be a number 1. So.
And they added Jimmy Ward and Sheldon Rankins to help the defense. So, I'll go ahead and start with the Texans. It seems like their strength is their offensive line. It seems like they've got a pretty good offensive line. They added another guy, Shaq Mason, to start at guard. But it's all going to be about is CJ Stroud good. But not just, I don't know. It's going to be hard to see if he is good too, because I think their weakness is their receivers, in my opinion. They've got a terrible receiving corps. Dalton Schultz is a good tight end, so maybe that will help a lot, but I don't have a lot of faith in the Texans here, honestly. And like we've already said, I think their schedule is going to be kind of tough with the Broncos and the Jets, and then the whole AFC North is going to be tough. I don't see them winning 7 games. I think they're going to be the under. I think again they could be one of the worst teams again this year. They just don't have. They might have a good quarterback and like a couple of good guys on defense, but I don't think they have enough as a complete team to really win a bunch of these games. So I think they're going to go under. I think it's going to be like 5 or 6 wins again for them this season. Tony, I will go to you next. What are your thoughts on the Texans?
Man, the Texans this year, I'm gonna have to agree with you and go with the under. I just think it's one of the worst rosters in the NFL. You know, I know they don't have the hardest schedule playing against the NFC South and whatnot, but the AFC North is not the best division, but you know, it's gonna be tight. You know, all 4 of those teams are going to be competitive with each other, and I think they're all solid teams. They may not be the best, the Bengals up there, but yeah, the Texans, I just don't think they have the firepower. You know, a lot of it, like you said, depends on C.J. Stroud. I know he's kind of a bigger quarterback, 6'3". I know he's going to try to put the team on his back a lot, but at the end of the day, he's a rookie in the NFL, so I don't really see them winning 7 games. You know, I bet they'll flirt with it, maybe 6 or 5, 6, 7. I think they're going to be in that range, but I think next April they're going to be picking top 5 in the draft again. So give me the under on the Texans.
All right, under for Tony. All right, Andrew, are you going to give us 3 unders for the Texans? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the under as well. I mean, obviously CJ Stroud could be good, but he is a rookie. Rookies typically always struggle first year in the NFL, sometimes even that second year. It's usually the third year when you start to see the swing happen for those younger quarterbacks. I think they do have a good offensive line. Receiving corps is awful. They do have a decent running back in Dameon Pierce. I mean, he kind of showed out last year. I expect him to have another good year. So I think they're going to kind of try to power that offense through the run game more so than CJ Stroud and try to limit his exposure. And also they got that new head coach, D'Amico Ryans, which he was an absolute animal when he was on the field. So I think the defense is going to drive that team. If the defense plays well, I could see them potentially getting to 6 games, but I think they still hit the under 6.5. I don't see them winning 7 full games. I think they'll be at about a 6-win total. And the defense and D'Amico Ryans probably being the biggest factor for, you know, for them winning. If Will Anderson has a massive year, I think that helps him out a lot.
All right. Yeah, he's going to be a big part of that. All right, y'all. So we are all going under. That means
Under the hedge.
all right. All right. So everyone's going under on the Texans. Let's move to the Colts. I also think the Colts are going to be bad this year, but part of me is like, well, the Texans and the Colts are going to play each other twice. Someone's got to win those games, so you're going to get wins in there somewhere, but are they going to split them? You know, is someone going to, that could be where one of these teams goes over if they can win both of those games. But the Colts finished 3rd in the division, so they again should have a little bit easier schedule, but their extra 3 games will be the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Rams. The Rams might be better this year than they were. They should be with all the injuries.
Can't be much worse. Ooh.
Exactly. Yeah, they got to be better, basically, unless they all get injured again. But the Patriots, you know, I don't know, they're not bad for being I mean, the AFC East is just good, and then the Raiders, I don't know, the Raiders might be bad. The Colts, their big question, I guess they have 2 big things. So they added Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew. So they added 2 quarterbacks. Their best case scenario would be Anthony Richardson plays really well. We don't see Gardner Minshew, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't even know if he's. I don't know. I don't trust Anthony Richardson. I know. I think a lot of us, we've already said that a couple of times on the podcast. I mean, the YouTube show. We'll turn it into a podcast eventually, y'all, if you're listening. So, but the other big question is Jonathan Taylor. He's one of the better running backs. He's had this whole weird thing with Jim Irsay, where basically Irsay just like doesn't like him, it sounds like, and doesn't want to pay him, and I don't know, doesn't want to trade him, and now they're saying he's hurt, and he's saying he's not hurt, so that's always not a good start for your star player on the season. Also, their defense had been really good over the last couple of years, but they lost Gilmore at cornerback, and they lost Bobby Okereke. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. Okereke. And he was one of their best linebackers. So that's not going to help, obviously. And before the whole Jonathan Taylor stuff happened, I had written down that their strength is the run game, which we'll see if that is their strength anymore. And they've got Michael Pittman Jr. as a solid receiver, at least. Their over-under is set at 6.5 also, like the Texans.
Seems high.
Yeah. Okay. So Andrew thinks it seems high. Man, I don't know. I'm torn on this. But we'll let Tony start. And then we'll go to you, Andrew. Tony? 6.5, over or under?
I'm gonna agree with Andrew on this one. I think that's set pretty high. I'm gonna go with the under on the Colts. Kind of like what we just said about CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback struggling their first year, especially without an awesome offense around him. Especially if Jonathan Taylor doesn't play for them, he's gonna have his work cut out for him. I do think Richardson, like as a fantasy option, could be pretty decent just because with his running, I mean, it's going to be kind of like Justin Fields last year, where he may not do much throwing the ball, but he could run for 100 yards and score 2 touchdowns on running alone. So, but as a team, like you said, their defense has gotten progressively worse from that great defense they had a few years ago. And just Michael Pittman Jr., like, sure, he's a solid receiver. If he's your best receiver, though, you don't have that great of a wide receiver for. So I think just lack of weapons and honestly just drama within the franchise. I just don't see them being good for probably a while, honestly. So give me the under on them. I think they'll finish last in the division. Them and the Texans are going to be fighting for that number 4 spot. So give me the under on Indianapolis.
All right. Excuse me.
Yeah, I already tipped my hand here. But I'm going to go with the under. I think that they may win the least amount of games in the NFL this year. This might be a little Titans biased towards the Colts, but I mean, they've had 5 different starting quarterbacks in 5 seasons. They got a rookie head coach this year with a potential rookie quarterback starting. A lot of drama internally. And I think their wide receiver core is hand in hand, maybe just as bad as the Texans. They don't have a lot of star power on that side, and their defense has not really done anything to necessarily improve this offseason. Yeah, I think maybe they win 4 games. I think they'll be well under the 6.5 mark, in my opinion.
All right, another under there. All right, guys. I might do this 2 sweeps in a row. Excuse me. I think they're going to go under 2 just to go ahead and jump out on that. I agree. 6.5 seems high. I mean, they're not going to have an easy schedule. If you look at the schedule, I don't see any sort of I don't know if they're going to be favored until like the last 2 weeks of the season, maybe, unless they've lost every game, obviously. But
Damn.
I mean, seriously, at the Texans, they probably won't be favored since it's at Houston. Obviously, the Jags, the Ravens, the Rams, Titans. I don't know where they're going to have to obviously pick up a surprise win here and there, but I just don't see it happening more than 3 or 4 times. With all the turmoil in the team right now, yeah, I think they're definitely going to be kind of almost like a tanking year in a sense, especially if they do decide to trade Jonathan Taylor, get some picks, redo for next year, and get some more guys around Anthony Richardson. So I'm going to go with y'all too, under, which means we get another
Under the hedge.
all right.
And real quick, Dawson, to piggyback off what you said, if they want to trade Jonathan Taylor and go that route, just with the way the running backs are in the NFL right now, I don't know if they'd even get a whole lot for him. I know he had a huge year just 1 season ago, or I guess 2 seasons ago, but man, teams are drafting rookie running backs in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, and they're the starter. Like, look at Kansas City; they don't have a star running back; they have Pacheco, and he's doing fine. So, I just have a hard time seeing with the way running backs are getting treated right now that they'd be able to even get maybe even a 1st-round pick for them. So, I think it's tough times ahead in Indianapolis, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think the way that it was handled between Irsay and the media and everything adds any power in his hands. I think franchises are going to look at that and be like, well, he's not playing for the Colts either way. So if we lowball them,
Exactly.
there's a
Yeah.
chance that they're willing to accept it because it's either that or, I guess, put him on the unable to perform list without paying him. And if you do that, I think then he never suits back up for the Colts again.
No,
So
no chance.
yeah, tough position they are in there. Yeah, we'll see what happens though.
And it's a lot of that's on Irsay. He didn't have to tell the media this stuff. Like, you keep it in house. Like, if I'm a free agent, I don't want to go there next year.
No.
See, like Jonathan Taylor wants, I don't know, it was like 16 million or 17 a year, and instead Irsay is like, no, instead I'm going to move this whale across the country for 17 million.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, they got a history though. They ran off Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. They forced him to come back early, time and time again. He retired at such an early age. I think players see the trend of how that organization kind of treats their star players, and I think they're gonna have a tough time the next couple of years talking anybody into playing for them unless they actually hand them a bag. It'll be tough.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's about to cut us off here. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk Jags and Titans. All right, y'all, welcome back to The Hedge with Double D. Thank you for sticking with us.
The Hedge with Double D.
I know. This is for Andrew's first time hearing the Sounders. Aren't they great?
Yeah, I love the soundboard. Fantastic.
So we're going to skip into the Titans and then the Jags. I'm going to keep my rotational order here. So Andrew's going to go first, and I want him to start on the Titans for us. As you can see, he's got his alternative Derrick Henry jersey, repping it right there for us. Obviously a big fan. The Titans. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. Titans. They only have one more game over under than the Colts and the Texans, which surprises me. Their over under is 7.5. A lot of people are not believing in the Titans this year for sure. They had a terrible end of the season. Okay, Colin's not going to join. Yeah, it's okay. Bad end to the season. They lost a couple players. They did get a couple good additions though. They added the lineman from Northwestern, Skoronski.
Yep.
And obviously they got DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of jokes are being made. The Titans always get the old receivers and they come there to finish their season terribly. But I don't know. I still believe in D-Hop. I think he's really good. To me, it seems like their strength is going to be their running game, obviously with Henry, and then their defensive line has always been pretty good, even though it seems like it's a bunch of guys that people don't really know about, but they get 8, 9 sacks, 7, 8, 9 sacks a season. Simmons and Autry seem to kind of be leading it, but schedule wise, they finished second in the division. They lost a bunch of games at the end, so their schedule is going to be a little tougher in terms of their extra games. They play the Chargers, at Miami, and the Seahawks. So those are going to be 3 good games and tough games. But Andrew, I'm going to let you take it from there. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What else do we need to know about the Titans? And do you think they'll go over 7.5 or not?
I'll touch on the over-under sort of towards the end. I mean, I think the Titans kind of have a history of being overlooked by the national media. They're a smaller franchise in terms of market size, and that kind of plays into their hands sometimes because they do get overlooked. But I think that obviously in terms of weaknesses, their O-line is still a big question mark. I mean, they just cut a guy that was projected to be a starter 2 weeks ago because he couldn't stop getting into fights at camp. Vrabel's got a pretty no-nonsense policy on that kind of stuff. So cut him. He made $3 million guaranteed to practice for like 4 weeks, so that guy's living the good life.
Working smarter, not harder, baby.
Yeah.
So obviously, all that being said, they made a signing, I think just 2 days ago. His name is, I think it's Kevin Murray. He's played maybe 30 total NFL games, 21 starts. I haven't really looked into him too much, but the biggest question mark is still going to be the O-line. Obviously, that powers the whole thing, the passing game, the running game. So that's got to come together if they want to have a good season. I think their wide receiving core still a pretty big question mark outside of D-Hop. You know, Treylon Burks, is he going to take the step that people think he's going to take? They need him to kind of play big in that secondary role. And then everybody below him is, you know, a real question mark. There's no clue who's going to be the number 3 guy, who's going to be the number 4 guy. They signed Chris Moore from the Texans. He had 600 yards last year. So it's thought that it may be him or Kyle Phillips. If Kyle Phillips can stay healthy, he's just small. He's a 5'10", 190 pounds. You know, his body's not necessarily built for the NFL, so he's got to pack on some muscle. And then I think the third biggest weakness is their secondary. It's been a weakness of theirs for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Honestly, I think they were last in the league 2 or 3 years ago from a yards per reception standpoint. So with all that being said, there have been some major key additions. I think the biggest key addition that people are overlooking is Sean Murphy-Bunting from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He's going to be a big addition if he plays well, paired with Fulton, and you still got Kevin Byard, Roman that safety position. I think they'll have a solid year from a defensive standpoint. They signed Arden Key from the Jags. He had 6 sacks last year for the Jaguars. I think he'll be in a spot to maybe get 8 or 9 this year, paired with Harold Landry coming back from the ACL. Jeffrey Simmons is obviously still there, still going to be dominant. I think our defense will power this team. And obviously on the offensive side, you've signed DeAndre Hopkins, so that allows you to spread the field a little bit more. And now there's not as many question marks about like where does Tannehill go with the ball. You know, he'll have that AJ Brown type receiver to where, you know, if he wants to just throw it deep, he can throw it deep, and usually DeAndre Hopkins will come down with it. But that all rides on DeAndre staying healthy, right? Which has been a big question mark for him the last 2 seasons. So a lot of it's going to come down to health. I have a lot of faith in Mike Vrabel, though. I think as long as Vrabel is there, the Titans have a chance to win just about any game that they play. I think they hit the over. 7.5 just seems really low. I mean, we play the Texans and the Colts 4 times, you know, combined this year. And then we play the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Panthers. I don't see us winning less than 7. I think we sneak out 9, and I honestly think it will come down to another Week 17 matchup against Jacksonville for the division, as it has the last 2 seasons. Yeah, I'm going to go the over. I think they'll get 9 wins at least this season, and they'll be playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 17 for that AFC South playoff spot, which, you know, may just be kind of a charity playoff spot, depending on how the AFC South kind of pans out. You know, it all come down to how Ryan Tannehill plays. This could be his last season in with the Titans. If he struggles to begin the year, I think they'll turn the keys over to Will Levis pretty early on, at least get him some experience if it seems like we don't have a shot at the playoffs. So it all comes down to Ryan Tannehill, that O line, and that's still just big question marks.
Okay. I was going to ask you if you think we see Levis this year, but you answered that. So, well, I guess if you see,
I think there's a chance.
Yeah. Are you thinking if they do see Levis, that means the season's not going well?
Yes. I mean, if you look at the first 6 games, they play the Saints, the Chargers, the Browns, the Bengals, the Colts, and the Ravens. Between the Saints, the Chargers, the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens, I mean, those games are going to be toss-ups. If we lose a majority of those games, the season's already going to be kind of in jeopardy at that point. You know, you lose one more between the Steelers, Buccaneers, and Jags, and I think, you know, the season's over before you get into November, and you probably see Will Levis from November till the end of December if that's how it pans out.
Okay. That'd be interesting. So you think they're done with Malik Willis?
I just think he's too big of a project. I mean, I've heard he's made good improvements in camp, but he's still, even in camp, very slow to release the ball. You know, his drawback time, he's still taking 3-4 seconds of time to get rid of the ball. And in an NFL game, in a live environment, that's just, you know, much slower than you need to be successful out there. He's still too reliant on his athleticism. I think he'll hold on to a roster spot this year. But I think, you know, whoever they decide to step in for Tannehill, if he does struggle, will obviously kind of show who they're going to go with for the future. And I think it's tough not to go with Will Levis in that position, being he comes from a pro style offense. He's just as big and just as fast as Malik Willis, and his fundamentals are a little bit better already at this point in time. So Malik's got a tough hill to climb. I think if anything, you trade Malik away for, you know, whatever you can get for him. because right now I think he still brings some value versus if you bring him back out there and he struggles again. I think they'll use the preseason as maybe trade bait from Malik Willis. And if they do so, I wouldn't be disappointed in that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Oh, hey, baby. All right. So yeah. No, we here. Just a second, guys. Let me pause this real quick. We got a cat in the house. All right, sorry about that, y'all. A little cat issue, but we're all good. They're all back inside. No worries. All right. Talking Titans still. Andrew took the over with the Titans. Man, the offensive line that you're saying, that scares me how bad the offensive line is. But with Vrabel, I agree with you. They're gonna be okay, at least with Vrabel. That defense is gonna be good. I still think Tannehill is pretty good. And I believe in DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry. I think they've got enough pieces to win enough games in this relatively kind of weak schedule that they've got.
Yeah.
Like you said, the beginning of the schedule, they could go like 0-4 to start it off. They could go 3-1. You never know with the Titans. They're weird. But I think once you get into the middle of it, they got the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Steelers. And then they got the Panthers and the Colts and the Texans twice at the end. I think that toward the middle and the end, the season or the schedule gets a little bit easier. I mean, I think this 7.5 is pretty accurate. I think they're going to win 7 or 8 games, basically. I think they're going to win 8, though. I'm going to push them on the over because I think they are going to kind of beat up on the Texans and the Colts, which is half of those wins right there. And they'll sneak 1 or 2 in that they shouldn't win. So I'm going to also say the over. I think they're going to win exactly 8 games. Maybe even go like 8-1 with one of those weird ties going on. But yeah, that's my.
Forgot to mention also with DeAndre Hopkins, and Tim Kelly took over at OC, and he was the OC for Houston. DeAndre's last season there. He's got that kind of comfortability there, so I think that will help him out a lot too. That's something I forgot to mention. We'll see what happens there with Tim Kelly taking over. I think Tim Kelly performs like he should, and Ryan Tannehill does what he should. We could be looking at the Titans of 2020 when they were able to sneak into an AFC championship somehow, but it all comes down to Ryan Tannehill being able to, perform week in and week out as well. So we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, if Burks does not work out, that AJ Brown for the first round pick is going to go down as like one of the worst trades ever. Because my God, if they still had AJ Brown, they'd be so much better.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But
can you imagine AJ Brown on one side and D Hop on the other?
Oh no.
Like us three could be the quarterback on that team, and it'd be pretty damn good. So.
All right, Tony, why don't you take it away? What are you thinking over under wise?
So I'm going to start off by apologizing to Andrew. I am I'm a Titan hater.
Okay.
Not like they ever did anything to me. I want to like them so bad because they're the closest thing I have to a home team, but they're just always so boring to watch. Like, I wish I could get more into the Titans games. And I think Ryan Tannehill is one of the reasons why I haven't gotten into him recently, even though they've had some decent or good teams. I don't want to say decent and disrespecting. They've had some good teams. Really like Derrick Henry. I think Treylon Burks, I think he's going to take a leap this year. I think he's going to be an awesome receiver in this league. The Arkansas product. I think he's fun to watch. And I've always liked D-Hop. I've heard some jokes recently about the Tennessee where wide receivers go to die. I don't think this is going to be a Randy Moss, a Julio Jones, Andre Johnson situation. I think D-Hop has still got plenty in the tank. And I think, like you said, reconnecting with his old OC there, I think he is going to see the ball early and often every single game. They're going to feed that man. So I will say, with their schedule being the way it is, I know it's going to be a tough start. But I think if they can get a win or two in those first 4 or 5 games, I think they'll be fine. I think, I'm going to bet on them to get the over. I think they're going to challenge the Jags for the division. I do think the Jags are probably a little bit better overall, but I think the Titans, with you, like you said, with Vrabel, they're never going to be out of any game. So I like the Titans coaching staff, and their defense is going to be decent as always. And I kind of want to see Will Levis take the reins. I like his big arm. I like his athleticism. Honestly, I just want to see Levis throw it up in the air and let D Hop come down with it. I think that could revive my feelings for the Titans. And like I said, the only pro NFL game I've ever been to has been in Nashville. The stadium's beautiful. I like going. Just they gotta up it. They gotta up it a little bit for me. So I think this could be a good bounce back year after their bad year end of the year last year. And give me the over on the Titans. Like I said, they're gonna be fighting for a wild card spot and even the division. So, and that 7.5 just seems too low, especially with the schedule. Like you said, 4 games or Colts, Texans. That's 4-0 right there. So, give me the Titans on the over this year.
All right. My goodness, guys.
Yep, I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm saying we're perfectly matched up. Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah.
I think we've all been
Yeah,
aligned.
I don't think we have to disagree on anything. It makes great for radio.
Yeah, I think. I think if the Titans come out of those first 4 games split 2-2, that's a big win. I mean, the Titans were streaky last year. I think they started 1-3 or something like that, and then they rattled off 5 in a row, and then they went on to go like 2-7 the rest of the season. So it'll probably be the same kind of story. But if they can split those first 2 games, they get a good chance to hit this over. If they lose all 4 of those games, then this over will probably be in jeopardy. But we'll see what happens. It all comes down to those first. I think the first 4 games are going to be pretty telling to how the whole season's going to play for those Titans.
Yeah, I can see that. So again, yeah, all right. That's another time we all agreed. So that gives us another sounder.
Over the hedge.
Kelsey helping us out with that one.
I'm going to say Kelsey.
Yeah, it's all either me or Kelsey. So yes. All right. All over on the Titans. Interesting. All right. Maybe that's really good. Maybe that's really bad. That we agree, but we'll see. Let's move on to the Jags. Okay. All right. The Jaguars. They won the division last year. I don't know. It seems like when you look at their record, it seems like it's like, oh, I thought they were better than 9-8. Interesting. Just because, and a lot of that's just because you're like, oh, Trevor Lawrence is good. A lot of times you think good quarterback, good team. Their offseason, they didn't do a whole lot. They didn't really add much. They didn't lose a whole lot. They basically just like kept a lot of their pieces, just kind of running it back. Technically, they didn't really add Calvin Ridley. He just didn't play last year because of the suspension, but he is going to be playing this year, so you can consider that an addition. And I think that's going to help them a lot. I think they've got a pretty good receiving core between him and Zay Jones, and
Christian Kirk. Ingram at tight end.
Yeah, and Kirk. Yeah, and then Ingram at tight end. Yeah, they've got some good skill positions. ETN at running back, and they've got a pretty solid offensive line. Obviously, their main strength is going to be Trevor Lawrence. He seems like he's going to be a really good quarterback for years to come. So, I mean, obviously, okay. One thing with them, though, their schedule is tough. They're going to play Kansas City, Buffalo, and the 49ers. So that's going to get a lot harder.
0-3 right there.
That might be. But you never know. They're all home games though, so they all are coming to. Well, I think one of them is actually a London game, which is like Jacksonville's home away from home.
Yeah, it's a Jags home game right there.
Exactly. I think they play in London twice this year, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I think they've played the most out of
they play every year. Let's see here. I think I see 2 9:30 a.m. games. That's got to be 2 London games, Falcons and Bills. So they get to stay in London for the game against the Bills. Maybe that helps being in there a whole week. I'd imagine they wouldn't come home and go back.
Yeah.
But let's see here. So their main addition was Calvin Ridley. Otherwise they're kind of running it back with the same team. They had a pretty good team last year. They had that crazy comeback win.
Against the Chargers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were down 27-7 at halftime, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't count on comeback wins like that a lot, but I think that's a confidence booster. It just kind of helps those younger guys build on stuff. I think they're going to be a little bit better this year than they were last year. I think they're going to get those 4 wins against the Texans and the Colts. I think they're either going to win 1 or 2 against the Titans. Maybe they split. And I think they're going to wipe out the NFC South. I think they're gonna get to 10 wins this year, maybe 11. So I think they're gonna get over. And we'll get into the division winners after we do all this. But obviously, if I'm saying I think they're gonna get 10 or 11 and Titans get 8, they're gonna be my division winner also. But I'll go ahead and just start and say I think they're gonna get over. I think there's gonna be some really good games there with Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Niners. Tony, what are your thoughts on the Jags?
Man, I like the Jags. I think they're going to be a good team this year. I'm definitely going to take the over on their win total. The addition of Calvin Ridley, we didn't see him last year, so a lot of people forget about him, but he's a damn good receiver. Christian Kirk had a good year last year. Zay Jones, like you said, you guys still got Evan Ingram at tight end. They got a lot of weapons, and then ETN as a running back. Man, I think Trevor Lawrence takes another leap this year. I think he could arguably be in the MVP conversation depending on how the Jags do this year. And I know they got those 3 tough out-of-conference games, but 2 at home, 1 in London, which is also home pretty much. Who knows? They could definitely surprise some people. So give me the over on the Jags. I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch this year.
All right,
Good old Sunshine at quarterback.
Sunshine.
remember the Titans. I love it.
I love it. Maybe the best movie soundtrack out there. Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Oh man, hard to beat.
I know. All right, Andrew, the Titans fan, high on the Jags.
Yeah, Titans fan. I'm going to try to remove my bias from the conversation. I mean, I got a lot of faith in Doug Peterson. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think he's obviously turned around Trevor Lawrence. If Urban Meyer was still there, I think Trevor Lawrence would be playing for a different franchise at this point in time. I think the addition of Calvin Ridley, everything we've seen from like the training camp videos from his footwork to his route running, I mean, obviously that's going to be a big addition for that offense. And that offense was already, pretty smooth last year. There weren't a lot of hiccups that they faced. They were able to put up points with the best of them. I think their defense is going to be their biggest weakness this year, just like it was last year. I think you said they kept most of the players, but they did lose some players like Arden Key to the Tennessee Titans, who did contribute pretty heavily to their pass rush. And I think they're going to fill that this year on the defensive side of the ball. They do play the Chiefs, the Bills. I'm not too worried about the 49ers, but, they play the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Ravens. Those are all going to be toss-ups. I think 9. I still think that I'm torn, but I feel like I have to go the under on this one. I think they win 9 games exactly. I think they go running back at about 9 and 8. I think Titans will have a pretty similar record, and I think the division is going to come down to that January 17th game in Nashville at Nissan Stadium, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. But yeah, I'm going under here at 9 wins for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Interesting. All right. So we finally disagree on something as a whole. All right. Good. That means no sounder. Sorry, guys. All right. Get 2 overs and an under. All right. That now means we have our picks on our divisional winners. I think me and Tony are pretty obvious, so we'll go first. Tony, I'm taking the Jags. You taking the Jags?
I'm going to take the Jags, but I think, like I said, I think the Titans can definitely challenge them for that spot. I don't think they're going to run away with it. So Tennessee is my clear number 2 in Jacksonville. They got work cut out for them, but I'm going to pick them to win the division.
All right. So the Jags are at -155 to win the division. I think we've said it before, but that's one of the highest odds actually of any of the division winners. Division favorites, sorry. The Chiefs and the 49ers are barely favored above that for their divisions. So
the Jags are favored. They have better odds than the Eagles?
Yeah, Eagles are only like 130.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think, like we've talked about this, I think that's because the Eagles have the Cowboys and the Giants, and the Jags have, the Titans and no one else. Yeah. So,
it's just disrespecting the small market team again. Giants and Cowboys haven't done anything the last 5-6 seasons, so I don't know why everyone's so high on Dak Prescott. I don't think he's ever even won a playoff game. Ryan Tannehill has more playoff wins than Dak Prescott does. more
Yeah.
AFC Championship appearances as well. But I mean, obviously, I'm gonna go with the Tennessee Titans just based on what we saw last year. I think Jacksonville's ceiling is just as high. I mean, the Titans were one snap away from beating them for the division in Week 17 before Josh Dobbs fumbles in the fourth quarter with 1:30 to give them a go-ahead touchdown to give them that playoff spot. So, I think with Mike Vrabel, Rand Carthon at the helm, I think they're going to be going toe-to-toe with Jacksonville Jaguars all season long, and it will come back down to that Week 17 matchup. And the only reason I really give the Titans the leg up there is because it's in Nissan Stadium in Nashville. If they were playing that Week 17 matchup in Jacksonville, I'd probably be leaning more towards the Jaguars, but I have to go with the hometown team here, and I think division will go to the Titans. But I still think, depending on how the rest of the league shakes out, the Jags might still be able to sneak a wild card spot in there somehow.
All right.
Maybe.
All right. So Andrew's taking the Titans. They are at plus 350 on DraftKings. So that's definitely good odds there.
Yeah, maybe I should put some money on them.
Yeah.
Wife wouldn't love that, but I might do it.
All right, guys. So we got 2 on the Jags, 1 on the Titans. I feel like if I bring you on as a fan of a team, you got to pick that team to win the division. EJ picked the Falcons last week as a Falcons fan. We'll see where we go from there too. But I mean, I'm a Packers fan. We'll see if I pick the Packers. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, picking the Falcons, you're just delusional at this point, though. If you're picking them to win the division, I feel like the Titans. At least you can put it on paper and it can make sense. You can talk yourself into it with the Tennessee Titans, but it all comes down to Ryan Tannehill. If we had Trevor Lawrence, I think it'd be a no-brainer. Obviously, that we win that division, but we'll see. That's how it's going to come down to the future and Will Levis. If he is a miss, the Titans are basically, I think they're putting off that rebuild, thinking that Ryan Tannehill's got a few more seasons in him. If it doesn't pan out that year, Will Levis is going to get thrown in the fire quickly, and we're going to quickly find out if the Titans have a future here, or if it's time to hit that panic button and start that rebuild up.
Would it surprise you if we said, as bad as we think the Packers are going to be, they're only at plus 400 while the Titans are plus 350?
There's a good head coach down there in Green Bay. I think, obviously a lot of question marks around Jordan Love, but I mean, I think he's had enough time. He's been sitting behind a really, really good quarterback for a long time. He's got more time than most quarterbacks get in this league to kind of learn and grow. So I think he'll have a better season than Trey Lance. Trey Lance even gets the go in San Francisco. We'll see what happens there.
Very interesting. All right, guys. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Andrew, thank you for joining me.
Yes, sir.
Luck to the Titans. Tony, as always, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. As always, listen to what we said. See if you agree with us or not. Bet responsibly. Hedge those picks. We'll see you next time. See ya.